Hey folks, Dale Davidson here, the Dear VA Guy. Welcome to the channel. My name is Dale Davidson. Glad you're here. Hey, look, before we start, I wanted to apologize to the 2 million female veterans out there. Okay, a subscriber brought to my attention that in my videos I generally refer to a male veteran. Now, my generalization was in no way, shape, form, or fashion in any effort by me. I had no intention. It was just kind of I don't know what happened. But these females, you have made tremendous sacrifices in our defense, and so I applaud you. Okay, without you, we would not be free. So, and without our armed forces, both men and women, we might be speaking a different language. So, again, to all the men and women, those who are currently serving and those who have served, as well as their spouses, thank you. Anyway, on to our topic today, spousal benefits. Okay, so in my previous video, I discussed who is a spouse. Okay, so check that video out to get the definition, or if you need that definition, send me a comment, send me an email at dearvaguy@gmail.com, dearvaguy@gmail.com, and we'll answer that for you. But to be considered a veteran's surviving spouse, okay, you, the individual, must still be married to the veteran at the time of the veteran's death. Okay, you've got to be married to the veteran at the time of the veteran's death. Okay, so it makes sense that a surviving spouse is going to be denied surviving spouse status, which means eligibility for benefits, if he or she was legally remarried to somebody else before the veteran died. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So the case really becomes more complicated when the remarriage occurs after the veteran's death, okay? Remember, the general rule is that a surviving spouse must have been the spouse of the veteran at the time of the veteran's death. Now, remarriage by your surviving spouse, or if you are the surviving spouse of a veteran, generally cuts off entitlement to all VA benefits, except for the exceptions we're going to talk about today. And that's what today's video is about, is the exceptions to the general rule. So always keep in mind the general rule that a surviving spouse who remarries is not eligible for VA benefits. That includes the death pension, DIC, and other benefits, unless they are expressly mentioned in these exceptions that we're going to be talking about. So here's the first exception to the general rule. Remarriage is void or annulled. So a remarried surviving spouse is eligible for VA benefits so long as he or she meets other eligibility requirements if the marriage or the remarriage is void or was annulled by a court with the authority to annul that marriage. Of course, we've got all these fraud exceptions that if the VA finds that either party colluded, then all bets are off. So, but keep in mind that even if the surviving spouse's remarriage was ruled void or annulled, the claimant must have been the spouse of the veteran at the time of death. So let me give you kind of a funny example that happened in our office. So the individual comes in and we're talking about his marriages, and I asked him, I said, now you were married here to this lady? Yes. And you were here married? Okay, so tell me when you were divorced. Well, I don't really know if I was divorced. Turns out he's married to 3 women at the same time. So, who's the spouse in that instance? Well, I would argue that the first one he married is the spouse, because the other 2 were void because you can't be married to more than one person. voiding or annulling a remarriage does not automatically result in the surviving spouse status if the veteran and the surviving spouse were divorced at the time of the veteran's death. So as a general rule, and you'll talk to a lot of veterans attorneys out there, they'll say, well, I was divorced. That automatically red flags, that pretty much cuts off all benefits. But there are exceptions to the rules. So ask whoever you're speaking to, ask the questions. So I was thinking about, so how do you void or annul a marriage that has already been terminated by divorce? I mean, the divorce ends the marriage. Well, the annulment or the voiding of the marriage says it just never existed. Okay, so maybe the individual was too young. Maybe there was some kind of mental incapacity, and I'm not sure getting drunk over in Las Vegas is qualifies for that. Impotence, duress, and fraud. So those things are generally grounds for voiding a marriage or an annulment. Okay, the next exception to the general rule. Remember, the general rule is you got to be married to the veteran on the date of the veteran's death. Okay. If not, you're not eligible. Okay. So the second exception to the general rule is to the remarriage or relationship terminated prior to 1990. So here we have a 32-year-old law versus a new law. The old law was in 1990. The new law is 1998. So we have a 32-year-old law versus a 24-year-old law, but they'll call them old and new. Go figure that out. So anyway, the old law might still be relevant. And let me give you an example. So you've got a situation where the old law might apply if the surviving spouse filed a claim for survivor benefits before 1990. Again, that claim is 32 years old, okay? But the claim was never adjudicated, never decided by the VA. Don't know how that happens without somebody pushing. But if it's still pending, then you'd still be under the old law, that 32-year-old law regarding this one exception. So the old law might still be relevant too, where you have some kind of motion challenging the previous final VA denial or the Board of Veteran Appeal denial due to the claimant's remarriage based upon clear and unmistakable error. So this old law exception rarely used. I have personally never seen it in the 30 plus years I've been doing this. So, but under the new law, remarried surviving spouses may be eligible for survivor benefits only if their remarriage has ended. Remarriage could have ended by divorce, annulment, dissolution, or the death of the second spouse. Or if the surviving spouse was never really legally remarried. There's some kind of legal technicality in there that they were never married. Okay, so the new law, this 1998 law, provides that the surviving spouse would be entitled to DIC benefits, okay, or to have the DIC benefits reinstated if this exception applies. Because of the effective dates provisions in the 1998 law, no surviving spouse who qualifies under this 1998 law gets retroactive benefits, okay, earlier than October of 1998. So under the old law, you could get retroactive benefits. Under the new law, you cannot. So in addition to the DIC, okay, benefits, you'll get CHAMP VA. You're entitled to CHAMP VA, dependent educational assistance, and VA home loans. Okay, so you're still entitled to those kinds of benefits if this exception applies. If you have any questions about whether any of these exceptions apply, drop us a line and give us a call. Let us know. It's dearvaguy@gmail.com, dearvaguy@gmail.com, and we'll be glad to help you. Now, the next exception to the general rule gets kind of complicated here. So the surviving spouse is at least 57 years old when they remarried, okay? and the remarriage was on or after December 16th of 2003. I don't know why they do these crazy rules like this. And the claim for benefit is pending, and it was filed on or after January 1, 2004. Again, this is a very limited exception by design. So the second category covers surviving spouses who remarry on or after turning 57 and whose claim for survivor benefits was filed on or after a certain date, and that date is January 1, 2004. So again, the remarriage need not have ended to be eligible. Okay, you can remain married and still entitled to these benefits: DIC, CHAMP, dependents, educational assistance, and VA home loans. Okay, so those are still available, but again, this is a very, very limited rule, or limited exception to the general rule. Now, the last exception to the general rule. Again, we're talking about individuals who are remarried, but who remarried before the enactment of the Veterans Benefits Act of 2003. These particular individuals, these particular surviving spouses, only had 1 year from the date of the enactment of this new law. So enactment was in 2003. In fact, December 16, 2003. They had 1 year from that date to apply for benefits. If you didn't do it under this exception, it's no longer available to you. So I've got this little chart here I want to kind of go over kind of as a recap. If the surviving spouse is still remarried, okay, did the surviving spouse remarry on or after age 57? If yes, then you answer this question: was the surviving spouse initial claim for benefits pending or filed on or after January 1 of 2004? If yes, the remarriage does not affect her eligibility for DIC, CHAMP, VA home loan benefits, and other benefits. Let's go back up the chart here. Did the surviving spouse remarry on or after age 57? If no, remarriage makes the surviving spouse ineligible for VA benefits. It means they're not eligible. Okay? If no, the surviving spouse who remarried before December 16th of 2003 had until December 15th of 2004 to file a claim. If you didn't, the deadline's up and you're out of luck. So back up the chart here. Is the surviving spouse still remarried? If no, the remarriage does not affect eligibility for DIC or CHAMP VA or VA home loan benefits, okay? If those benefits are paid no earlier than October 1 of 1998. So I hope this has helped you as far as, what's out there as far as your spouse, your surviving spouse. What happens if your surviving spouse remarries? How does that affect your VA benefits? How does that affect your spouse's eligibility for VA benefits afterwards? Now, one thing I did not mention through here is I did not mention aid and attendance. Now, aid and attendance is a general rule. Remarriage automatically makes you ineligible. So there's no exceptions to the rules for VA aid and attendance. These exceptions only apply for DIC, CHAMP VA, housing loans, and the sorts. It does not apply to VA aid and attendance. So I hope this has helped. If you have any questions, shoot us a line, dearvaguy@gmail.com, dearvaguy@gmail.com. Leave us a comment below. Of course, always like and subscribe so you can get some more videos. So until next time, you be blessed.
No more whiskey, I'll have a Coke. Catching bass on an old fishing boat. One more story.